In July of 2026, a Japanese newspaper did something no American analyst had bothered to do. It read the footnotes. Not the headlines. Not the earnings calls. The small print at the back of the quarterly filings of 5 companies: Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Oracle. And it added up a number: $1.65 trillion. That is money these companies owe. It does not appear as debt. It appears as a note. And here's the part that should stop you: the debt they actually report. The honest, printed, on the balance sheet number is $1.35 trillion. The invisible pile is bigger than the visible one. 4 years ago, that invisible pile was roughly an eighth of its current size. Now, every headline you have read for the last 18 months has asked the same question. When does the AI bubble pop? Wrong question. Bubbles pop when the money runs out. This one doesn't run out. It arrives. There is a specific moment when all of this stops being a footnote and becomes a line item. It's already scheduled. I'll show you exactly when. But first, you need to understand why anyone would build it this way, because the reason is not what you think. Start with the part you can see. In September of 2025, Nvidia and OpenAI announced a letter of intent. Nvidia would invest up to $100 billion. OpenAI would deploy 10 gigawatts of Nvidia systems. Read that again slowly. Nvidia gives OpenAI money. OpenAI gives the money back to Nvidia for chips. Same month, Nvidia signs a $6.3 billion cloud capacity agreement with CoreWeave. CoreWeave buys Nvidia chips. In January of 2026, Nvidia puts another $2 billion into CoreWeave at $87.20 a share. Nvidia funds the customer. The customer buys from Nvidia. Nvidia books the revenue. Call it what it is, the circle. And from the inside, every single one of those conversations sounds completely sensible. They want 40,000 units. They can't pay for 40,000 units. How short are they? All of it. They have a model and a waiting list. Then we fund it. We fund the company that buys from us. We fund the company that buys from us. Otherwise, Google funds them, and they buy from Google. Nobody in that room is lying. Nobody is even being aggressive. They are looking at a competitor and running out of alternatives. Now, the defense you hear at every conference is reasonable. Vendor financing is old. Cisco did it in the 90s. Boeing does it. You help a customer buy the thing so they can buy the thing. And that's fair. Right up until the moment you notice how much of the industry's growth is one company shaking hands with itself, which is why the circle got expensive to defend. In February of 2026, the $100 billion OpenAI commitment collapsed. It was replaced by a $30 billion equity stake in a $110 billion round. Analysts called it discipline. Investors called it a warning. Here's what neither of them said. The circle is the loud part. It's on the front page. It has a chart. Every fund manager on earth has an opinion about it. Things that loud do not kill you. Follow the chips out of the warehouse. They go into buildings. Enormous, windowless, air-conditioned buildings in Ohio, in Texas, in Arizona, in places where electricity is cheap and land is cheaper. A hyperscale data center is not a purchase. It's a promise. Several thousand promises, stacked. And the promises are long. A chip has a useful life somewhere around 5 or 6 years. The building around it is leased for 15. The power contract underneath it can run 20. You are signing paper that outlives the hardware it was signed for, twice over. You promise a landlord 15 years of rent. You promise a chip supplier 4 years of orders. You promise a utility a fixed load. You promise a construction firm a schedule. None of that is a loan. Nobody lent you anything. So under American accounting rules, none of it is debt. It's a future contractual obligation, a commitment. And commitments live in the notes. This is not a loophole somebody found. This is how GAAP has worked for decades, and for decades it was fine, because nobody was making promises at this scale. Call it the promise economy. You get the building now. The number shows up later. The chief financial officer signing that lease is not committing fraud. She is not even being clever. She is following the rule exactly as written, and her auditor will sign it without a second look, and she will go home, and she will sleep fine. That's the problem. Everyone in this story sleeps fine. We have seen this shape before. Houston, late 90s. Enron has a problem that is boring and fatal at the same time. It wants to own expensive assets, pipelines, power plants, broadband, without the debt those assets require showing up next to its share price. So it builds partnerships, separate entities. Technically, not Enron. The asset goes in, the debt goes in, and the balance sheet stays clean. The name for these is Special Purpose Vehicles, SPVs. Where does the debt sit? Not with us. But we own the thing. We own the thing. The partnership owns the debt. And that's allowed? It's allowed. It was allowed until it wasn't. And in 2001, the whole thing came apart and took Arthur Andersen with it and rewrote American accounting law. Now here is the sentence I need you to actually hear, because the internet keeps getting it backwards. Enron's crime was not using special purpose vehicles. Enron's crime was hiding them. What the 5 hyperscalers are doing today is disclosed. It's in the filings. Any analyst can find it. Nikkei found it. That's the whole story. Somebody bothered to look. So the difference is real. It is also thinner than you'd like. Because disclosure only protects you if somebody reads the disclosure. And for 4 years, while that number multiplied 8-fold, essentially nobody did. A thing can be fully legal, fully visible, and still fully missed. Now I close the loop I opened at the start. $1.65 trillion spread across 5 companies. Here's how it actually sits. Meta. Roughly $420 billion in off-balance sheet obligations against about $140 billion of reported debt. Nearly 3 times as much promise as debt. And while that ratio was climbing, Meta raised $13 billion through a special purpose vehicle for a single Texas data center. At the same moment, the market price of insurance against Meta defaulting hit a record. Oracle. $273.3 billion as of the end of May 2026. 4 years earlier, that number was a rounding error. It has grown roughly 30-fold. Oracle is not a hypothetical. S&P has already cut its credit rating and said why out loud, stretched leverage, driven by AI commitments, including something in the region of $260 billion of future lease obligations. That's the first one to get marked. And now the mechanism, the switch-on date. While a data center is under construction, the lease is a promise, and promises live in the notes. The day it goes live, the day the servers draw power and the contract starts running. That lease stops being a footnote. It rolls onto the balance sheet. Not gradually, not as a percentage. All of it, at once, on a date that was written into a contract 3 years earlier by people who are no longer in the room. Nobody has to panic for this to happen. No bank has to call a loan. No short seller has to write a report. A building simply turns on. That is why this bubble does not pop. A pop needs a moment of surprise. There is no surprise here. The dates are already in the contracts. The only thing anyone is waiting for is the calendar. And now the honest version of the counterargument, because there is one. If the demand is real, if enterprises keep buying, if the models keep improving, if inference volume grows into the capacity, then none of this matters. The leases roll on, the revenue rolls in alongside them, and in 5 years, this entire discussion looks like people who worried about fiber optic cable in 1999 and missed the internet. That is a serious position. It might even be the right one. But notice what it requires. It requires demand to arrive on a schedule set by construction crews. Not roughly. Not eventually. On the date, the building turns on. Miss by 2 years, and you are paying for a fully lit data center with no one on the other end of it. That is the actual bet, not is AI real? Is AI real on time? 3 reasons, and none of them are stupid. First, it's legal. Not legal adjacent. Legal. GAAP compliant, IFRS compliant, disclosed, audited. There is no rule being broken, so there is no regulator with a reason to move. Legal is not the same as safe. It never was, but the words feel identical when you're reading a filing at 11 at night. Second, everyone is holding the same thing. If Microsoft slows down and Meta doesn't, Microsoft loses the decade. The commitments are not a bet on AI demand. They're a bet that stopping is worse than overbuilding. Every one of the 5 has made the same bet, which means none of them can be the first to fold. Third, and this is the one that reaches you. You did not choose any of this. 4 of these 5 companies are among the largest holdings in the S&P 500. If you have an index fund, a pension, a workplace retirement account, a default target date option you selected once in 2019 and never opened again, you own this, not a little, structurally, by weight. Call it the index trap. The exposure didn't come from a decision. It came from a default. You never got a prospectus for the AI build-out. You got a form at a new job with a box already ticked. So everyone is watching for the pop, refreshing the tickers, waiting for the bang. Waiting for the Lehman weekend, the emergency call, the CEO walking out with a box. There won't be one. Somewhere in Ohio, a technician will walk a row of cabinets with a clipboard, flip a breaker, and watch a wall of green lights come up. He'll note the time. He'll go get a coffee. It will take about 4 minutes. And a number that lived in a footnote for 3 years will quietly move to the front of the document. Bubbles don't always burst. Sometimes they just get delivered.